At dinner, I said, "Can't wait for the family reunion." My brother laughed. "You're not invited, it's for real family." Everyone laughed. I just smiled and left. 4 days later, my dad tried to withdraw $2,400. I sent a screenshot. Payment denied. Must be that family-only policy. 2 days later, I heard a loud knock on my door. I don't think I've ever been that angry at them before. It was originally planned that I'd be there too. I was the one who helped Mom find the rental cabin. I called around and confirmed the date that worked for everyone, including Cody's classes and Lana's work schedule. I even sent a deposit to hold the place. No one argued, no one hesitated. It was understood that I'd be there. Because I'm part of the family. At least that's what I thought. Then weeks went by. Group chat went quiet. I asked twice if the plan was still on. No one answered. Lana left me on read. Mom replied with a thumbs up once and nothing else. I figured maybe it was off. That they changed their minds or the cabin fell through. Then we had dinner. My sister brought Dylan again, which always meant Mom would make her famous chicken Alfredo. I showed up with wine as usual. I even offered to cover the grocery bill on the way there again. Not that anyone ever asked, they just assumed. Everyone acted normal, like they weren't actively excluding me from a trip I helped plan. Halfway through dinner, I brought it up. "So when's the family reunion?" I never heard if it was still happening. Cody didn't even pretend to be confused. He looked me straight in the eye, smirked, and said, "You're not invited. It's for real family." They all laughed. Not awkward chuckles, full-on shoulders-moving laughter. Dylan gave this low, awkward laugh like he wasn't sure if it was okay but didn't want to be the only one not laughing. Lana smiled and looked down at her plate. Mom kept chewing. Dad snorted and mumbled something I couldn't hear. I smiled too. Not because it was funny. Because I knew in that moment they'd made a choice. I didn't argue. I just stood up, folded my napkin, and left my half-finished plate on the table. 4 days later, Dad tried to withdraw $2,400 from the joint emergency account. The one I opened when Mom's hospital bills started piling up. I was the only one putting money into it for the past 3 years. They used it for car repairs, for Lana's textbooks, even for Cody's overdue rent once. No one ever said thank you. No one ever even acknowledged it. It was declined. I sent the screenshot to Dad directly. Captioned it, "Payment denied." Must be that real family policy. Then I turned off notifications and went about my day. 2 days later, I was brushing my teeth when I heard pounding on the front door. Not knocking. Pounding. Repeated, angry hits like someone was trying to break in. It was 8:42 a.m. I walked over and looked through the peephole. There they were. Dad, Mom, and Cody. Dad looked like he was about to kick the door in. Cody was pacing behind him. Mom just stood there with that blank, "I'm the victim" face she always wears when things don't go her way. I didn't open it right away. I stood there and stared. Then I smiled again, just like I did at dinner. Because I already knew this was going to be the beginning of something I wouldn't regret. I finally opened the door, but just enough to let them see my face and know I wasn't going to pretend nothing had happened. Dad started barking questions before I said a word. "What's this about freezing the account? You think this is funny?" His voice was louder than it needed to be. Cody stood behind him, arms crossed, staring at the ground like he was trying to psych himself up for a fight. Mom didn't speak. She just watched me with that tired, pitiful look she always defaulted to when things didn't go her way. She wanted me to feel guilty. They used to work. Not anymore. I told Dad calmly the account was mine. It was opened under my name. I put the money in. I let them use it for emergencies because they said they had no other options. Not because they were entitled to it. He started ranting about how it was family money, and I was part of this family. I smiled, told him that wasn't what I heard at dinner. Cody jumped in before Dad could speak again. "You seriously took that joke seriously?" He actually laughed. "You really think we were being serious?" I told him yeah, I did. Because no one corrected him. No one said it was a joke. They laughed. And then they all stayed quiet when I walked out. Cody told me to get over myself. I told him he could get over the canceled vacation. That's when Mom's eyes widened. "Canceled?" I nodded. "Charged back the deposit. I booked it. I paid for it. The reservation's gone. Should be getting the refund this week." They were quiet for a second. Then Dad exploded. "You what?" I repeated myself. Fully. They hadn't just excluded me. They used me to secure the cabin, then cut me out without a word. And they thought they'd get away with it. I reminded them I was the one who made the calls, paid the down payment, followed up with the rental company. I did the work. They took the trip. They didn't think I'd fight back. They thought I'd swallow it like I always did. Cody kept muttering, said I was acting like some villain from a courtroom drama. That I was playing lawyer again. Like it was some costume I put on. I didn't answer that. I just looked at Mom and asked if she remembered the emergency dental work she had last year. The one she didn't want Dad to know about. I covered that too. Quietly. Without receipts. Without judgment. She nodded slowly. Then I turned to Dad. And the hospital co-pays? The overdue car insurance you kept forgetting to pay? The medications for your blood pressure? That was all me, Dad. I saw something flicker in his eyes. But it wasn't gratitude. It was panic. Then I looked at Mom again. And you? The credit card you opened in my name 3 years ago. The one I didn't report. You remember that, right? Her face went pale. She looked at the ground. I paid it off, I said. Let it go. But not this. Not anymore. They weren't stunned because they didn't know. They were stunned because I said it out loud. I didn't let them keep the image they'd worked so hard to protect. The good parents, the tight family, the innocent little brother. I cracked it wide open. Dad stepped closer. Said I was going to regret this. That I didn't know what I was doing. That I was messing with the only people who cared about me. I told him he had no idea who I was anymore. I wasn't the daughter who kept the lights on and said thank you when no one thanked her back. I was the lawyer they leaned on without ever paying a retainer. And if they wanted to push it, I'd push harder. I'd freeze every cent I shared with them. I'd report the credit fraud. I'd give the hospital full documentation. I'd cut them off with the precision of a scalpel. Mom started crying. Cody said I was heartless. Dad called me ungrateful. I told them I was done being useful to people who saw me as an ATM with a law degree. Then I closed the door. Locked it. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just sat on the couch and stared at the ceiling. I felt like a fuse had finally burned out and left behind nothing but clean silence. I wasn't angry anymore. Just relieved. 2 hours later my phone rang. It was Grandpa. He didn't say hi. Just, Monica, I heard what happened. You're not wrong. I'm on your side. You let me know what you need. And for the first time in a long time I didn't feel alone. The silence after Grandpa's call was different. Not the usual kind where I waited for the guilt to creep in. This time there was just space. Breathing room. A clear line between me and them. I hadn't realized how much I needed that. I didn't hear from anyone in the family for 2 days. Not a single call or message. Then Lana texted. He wanted to talk. We met at a small cafe near her work. She didn't bring Dylan. She didn't smile when she saw me. She just sat down and said, "They're losing it. Mom's not eating. Dad's talking about suing you." I raised an eyebrow at that. Suing me? Over what? Their feelings? She laughed a little. Don't worry. He won't. He's just furious. They think you're trying to destroy the family. I didn't say anything. I just let her talk. She told me they blamed me for the trip falling apart. That everyone was mad at me for canceling the cabin, even though I was the one who paid for it. She said Dad's been calling relatives, spinning some story about how I'm unstable, how I overreacted, how I threatened legal action for no reason. They're rewriting the whole thing, she said. They're making it sound like you lost your mind. I nodded. That wasn't new. My family had a long history of twisting reality into whatever version made them look like victims. Then she paused, looked down, and said something I didn't expect. I think they're lying to themselves. I looked at her. She didn't meet my eyes. She said she started going back over everything, how many times I covered for them, how often I bailed them out. She remembered the night I sat in the ER with Mom until 3 a.m. because no one else could be bothered. She remembered how I gave her money when she lost her job and never once asked her to pay it back. How I helped her rewrite her resume, helped her practice for interviews, even bought her a new outfit for the one she landed. She started crying. Quietly. No scene. Just the kind of tears that came from something breaking open after being held shut for too long. I think I want out, she said. I don't want to be like them. I didn't know what to say at first. This was the same sister who sat laughing while Cody made that real family joke. The same sister who ghosted my messages when I asked about the trip. But now she was seeing it. Finally. I asked her where she'd go. She said she had a friend in Colorado who offered her a room for a few months. She wanted to move, start fresh. She just didn't have the money to get out. Said she was stuck. I opened my purse, took out my checkbook and wrote a check for $7,000. Slid it across the table. He stared at it like it was radioactive. I said, no strings. Just go. He looked at me finally. Eyes red. Why are you helping me? Because you're finally telling the truth. She nodded. Folded the check and tucked it into her bag without another word. That night the rumors started. I got a call from Aunt Jean asking why I was cutting myself off from the family. She said she heard I was going through something and suggested I come over for tea to talk about it. I told her I was fine. That if she wanted the real story she could ask me, not Mom or Dad. I could already see how this was going to go. They'd paint me as unstable, ungrateful, The prodigal daughter who turned her back on the people who raised her. But I didn't care. Because for once, they were the ones scrambling to control the story. And I wasn't playing along anymore. By the weekend, the full smear campaign was in motion. I'd become the villain in their retelling. Selfish Monica, the one who lost her mind over a joke and threatened her family with lawsuits. Mom told people I was dangerous now. Dad was telling extended relatives that I was addicted to power, that I'd been changed by money and pride. None of it surprised me. But what did was the email I got from my old high school friend Erica. Subject line: "Hey, is everything okay with your parents?" She included screenshots. Messages from my mom. Long ones. Apparently she'd reached out to Erica, whom she hadn't spoken to in at least 5 years, to ask her to help Monica remember who she used to be. She told Erica I was spiraling, accused me of cutting ties with everyone who loved me. She even attached a photo of me as a teenager smiling on a camping trip like that was proof I used to be normal. I forwarded the email to Lana with a single line. "So it begins." Lana responded 5 minutes later. "I'm so sorry. They're losing control. They don't know what else to do." He was right. Their behavior wasn't just petty, it was panicked. They'd always relied on me to be the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who wouldn't speak up no matter how badly they treated me. When I stopped playing that role, they didn't know who they were anymore. Then something happened that I didn't see coming. Cody texted me. Not an apology. Not a plea. Just, "We need to talk. Urgent." At first I ignored it. But he kept messaging. Called twice. Then again. Finally I answered, ready to shut him down. But he didn't yell. He didn't mock me. He sounded scared. "Someone's been using your info, Monica. Your old address, your email. I got a fraud alert tied to your name. I think Mom used your name for a line of credit again." I didn't answer at first. Then he said, "I checked the mail at their house. There's a bill for $3,600 in your name. From a jewelry store. It's dated last month." A jewelry store. I hadn't bought jewelry in years. I thanked him, then hung up. Called my bank. They confirmed the activity was suspicious. Then I called the store. They said the person who made the purchase used my name and ID number. The shipping address? My parents' house. So now it wasn't just a betrayal. It was criminal. And it wasn't old. It was current. This wasn't something they did years ago when things were tight. They did it a few weeks ago. After cutting me out of the reunion. After laughing at me. I sat down on my couch, shaking. Not from fear. From how calm I felt. They didn't just try to humiliate me. They tried to use me. Except this time they left a paper trail. The next morning I walked into my office, closed the door and drafted the first letter. It was short. "To whom it may concern, I am reporting a fraudulent charge made in my name on date, at store name, without my consent or knowledge. I am prepared to pursue this legally and have supporting documentation." And then I added the words that changed everything. "The primary suspect is a family member with a history of unauthorized use of my identity." This time they weren't going to walk away untouched. They crossed a line. And now I was stepping fully into mine. The letter was just the beginning. By Monday morning, the fraud report was officially filed. I emailed a scanned copy of the document to the credit bureau, the store, and my lawyer friend Nate, who owed me a favor from law school. Within hours, I got confirmation that an investigation was underway, and that all eyes were on the shipping address, my parents' home. I didn't tell anyone in the family. Not at first. I wanted them to feel it. I wanted the silence to stretch long enough for the knock to come when they least expected it. Instead, the first crack came from Lana. He called me late that night, whispering. Said Mom had been on the phone all day and Dad was acting strange. Someone from the bank had called asking to verify an account. Lana didn't know the details, but she knew something was off. Then she said, "They're scared, Monica. Really scared. I think they know something's coming." I told her something was coming. She asked if I was serious about pressing charges. I said I wasn't bluffing. And then, surprisingly, she didn't try to stop me. "I get it," she said. "I really do." 2 days later, the phone calls started. First from Mom. Then from Dad. Then from Aunt Jean. Then Cody. None of them left voicemails. Just missed calls. Over and over. Then finally a knock at my door. I checked the camera feed before opening. It was all 4 of them. Mom, Dad, Cody, and even Aunt Jean, who must have driven in from upstate. They looked exhausted, like they hadn't slept. But their faces weren't apologetic. They were tense. Angry. Like I had betrayed them. I opened the door just enough to make it clear I wasn't inviting them in. Dad spoke first. "You really went to the police?" I didn't answer. He knew I had. Mom jumped in, talking over him, trying to guilt me. "We didn't mean for things to get so far. We were under stress, Monica. Financial pressure. We thought you'd understand." "No," I cut in. You thought I'd stay quiet. Again. Cody said I was blowing things up that didn't need to be. That no one had gotten hurt. I asked him if using someone's identity to buy $3,600 in jewelry was nothing. If pretending to care while stabbing them in the back was normal. That's when Dad snapped. He stepped forward like he was going to get in my face and said something about me ruining the family. How I was turning my back on blood. I told him he had 5 seconds to step back or I'd press harassment charges too. He stopped. And then something happened that caught everyone off guard. A car pulled into the driveway. Fully. Deliberately. It was Grandpa. He got out without looking at any of them, walked right up to the porch and stood next to me. I thought I made myself clear, he said. Leave her alone. Dad started sputtering something about family and unity and how I was being manipulated. Grandpa just shook his head. You've manipulated her long enough. She's not your crutch. She's not your bank. And if you've committed a crime in her name, you're damn lucky all she did was file a report. The porch went quiet. No one argued. Grandpa turned to me, his voice low. You don't have to fight alone. Then he looked at them. And you're all going to learn what happens when you mess with the only person in this family who ever did right by anyone. They left. No yelling. No slamming doors. Just silence. As I stood there watching them drive off, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Not because it was over, but because they finally knew it wasn't their game anymore. They stopped calling after that day. No more voicemails. No knocks on the door. No group texts pretending everything was fine. It was like someone had cut a wire in the family tree and the branches just fell away. I didn't chase after them. I didn't check in. I kept moving. The fraud case progressed fast. The jewelry store turned over a copy of the security footage. It showed my mother plain as day at the counter, smiling as she signed my name. Wearing the necklace she'd later post a photo of on Facebook with the caption, "Treating myself, finally." The investigators didn't even have to dig. The charges were dropped at my request. I had no interest in seeing her dragged through court. That wasn't the point anymore. They needed a wake-up call and they got it. From that day forward they knew the limits. I had drawn a line and I wasn't stepping over it again. Lana left town a week later. She used the money I gave her to move into a shared place in Denver. Sent me a picture of her tiny bedroom and a thank you note. Said she hadn't breathed like this in years. I told her to let me know if she needed help getting settled, but not to feel obligated to check in. She said, "I'm not doing this to stay in your good graces. I'm doing it because I finally want something real." We haven't spoken since and that feels right. Not out of anger. Just peace. Then the final act came. My parents started telling anyone who would listen that I had torn the family apart. That I had manipulated Grandpa. That I'd brainwashed Lana and poisoned Cody. They told neighbors I was unstable, a disgrace, ungrateful. Someone from church sent me a screenshot of a prayer group message my mom had written. "Pray for Monica. She's lost her way and is trying to destroy us." I didn't respond. I didn't correct the story. Because the truth didn't need defending anymore. Everyone chose their own version of events. That was fine. But for once I was living mine, and only mine. No guilt. No forced obligations. No dinners where I footed the bill and left hungry. No loyalty to people who saw me as a utility until I made things inconvenient. Cody never apologized. That didn't surprise me. He stayed with our parents like nothing had changed. Maybe for him nothing did. Grandpa calls sometimes, just to chat. We don't talk about them anymore. We talk about his garden. The weather. He asks about my work, tells me he's proud of me. That's all I ever wanted to hear anyway. So that's how it ended. No huge confrontation. No dramatic apology. Just separation. Lana's in a new city. Grandpa's content. My parents are still spinning their version of events to anyone who'll listen. But me. I'm finally living a life where I'm not being used. That was my revenge. I let them live in the world they built. And I walked away from it,